You're listening to The Wedding Whisperer with Sarah Burton of Simply Love Studio in Lexington, Kentucky. I talked with Matt from Riptide about your playlist and just kind of the day of, but I wanted to bring in Tom Little from HiFi DJ, and today we are going to talk about some of the add-ons that you can have from your wedding. If you have listened to anything I have said during this whole podcast, or you have had an individual meeting with me, you know that DJ is one of my top priorities for you on your wedding day, because your DJ is going to literally make or break your ceremony if they're providing the sound or the music for it. And then the reception, even with the planner there, the DJ is the one on the microphone, and they are the one guiding the reception and the layout of things as your guests see it. I think is probably a good way to say that. So, Tom, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Now, honestly, I'm glad that we are doing this because a lot of vendors I have professional and personal relationships with, and I know a lot about their backgrounds and kind of what they do in their day-to-day life. But honestly, I don't know a ton about you. I know that you are a husband and a father, and you're a DJ. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. How did you become a DJ?
Well, if you look at it as a sort of a lineage, you could go all the way back to when I was in high school. I was the mixtape CD guy. You know, bring me a list, I'll bring you back a CD. To give you an idea of when it was during like the LimeWire, Napster times, back when it was go get it with the MP3s. And so having already developed a love for music growing up in my family, I acquired a taste for different music and different mixes that really broadened my horizons and about what's popular and what people like. You know, it's really cool to be in your own narrow pathway, and then because of what you decided to do, people are saying, here's an enhancement to what you like about music. Here's another song by that artist, and here's, like, I would have never heard about Sublime when I was 15 years old if I hadn't been for somebody's mixtape, and now I'm off buying CDs and singing it at karaoke years later. My first gig was a church camp dance, and, you know, after that I would pop up at more casual type events with my laptop and a makeshift speaker system. And I was like a house party and mixer DJ during my college years. At the time, I wouldn't say I was unprofessional, but I wasn't a professional vendor running a business. I got a real look at professional level DJ work when I was booked by sorority organizations. Their formal events were a lot different than like bars and backyard parties. These events had structure and timelines. Fast forward years later, I created an LLC because people were calling me for their weddings and events, and they wanted contracts, and they were writing checks, so we had to get straight.
Is that when you came up with your business name then when you started your LLC, or did you have HiFi before you actually started your LLC?
HiFi is always something that I toyed around with because I like the term and what it means. And when it came time to name the business, I wanted something more creative than like DJ Tom LLC. And also, like, HiFi DJ is real succinct, and I really like that when it comes to branding. Like, I kind of took something that is not really trademarked or underwritten or anything like that, but can apply. Like, they'll put the label HiFi on something even though it's not a name brand. So I just kind of spun it around and made it a name brand for myself. And then I looked around when I was trying to figure out, you know, websites and everything. I wasn't the first DJ to do this. The first one in Kentucky, but I didn't get HiFiDJ.com. That's how I ended up with HiFiDJ.biz.
And it is hi, like HIFI, and not HIFIVE.
Right. Yeah. I can see where it's easily misconstrued. I can see where somebody would think it's high five. It definitely sounds like it, and it makes more sense to someone who doesn't, like, you know, have much knowledge about stereo systems or hi-fi streaming music or anything like that. Hi-fi is short for high fidelity, which is a way to describe audio as high quality.
Okay, well, that one's a new one to me. I did not know that.
I don't think it's directly correlated like wireless fidelity, but Wi-Fi, like we all use on our computers, it rhymes with hi-fi, hi-fi, Wi-Fi, because the wireless fi. That might take a little bit more research to explain, because I don't think Wi-Fi stands for anything. I think it's just Wi-Fi.
We're getting way too technical.
I told you that was going to happen. I knew that from the jump. I was like, we're going to start talking about nerdy stuff.
Yeah. I'm not that smart. All I can tell people is to hire a DJ because it is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity. And I know that most DJs go above and beyond just offering your sound for the wedding day now. Most DJs have add-ons that come along with it, and some of those are included, some of those are add-ons, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because I know that couples are seeing things on Instagram, they're seeing things on Pinterest, they may not know what they are, and they may not know fees that are associated. They may think another vendor provides that when it's actually the DJ. I actually kind of made a list for us to talk about. I think the first one is uplighting, or just lighting in general. With your standard wedding day reception package, what kind of lighting comes with that?
In the standard package this year, the lighting that you're getting on the dance floor is about 6 or 7 fixtures that focus just on the dance floor. It's a wash light effect. It's not a strobing effect. It's more of like a sequence LED light effect. It's designed to really just light up what's in front of the DJ booth, and that's why you call it dance floor lighting. You can move on to like uplights and additional lighting, but I like to include at least that base level of lighting in every package to make sure that, we're not just dancing in the dark.
And I think that every DJ should include that if they are a professional. If you are paying the money to have a DJ there, you do not want your guests just dancing in the dark, like you said. Or if you're in a large ballroom somewhere, we don't want them dancing in every single fluorescent light in the room.
And I get sometimes the room doesn't call for it, or it might be like a midday event. And then you could always say, we don't want the lights. The thing about this being a base package is it's not like most of what I'm charging you is for lights. It's really like a kind of, you bought a premium package, so it's part of the premium service. Just like the speakers that we bring, we don't mess around when it comes to the type of speakers, even though someone might say, oh, it's really low key, you don't have to bring something that's that expensive or that great. It's me thinking, I'm really glad you're making that concession, but I provide a premium service, so you are going to get a premium service, and the lighting comes with it, and you can always add to it. That's one thing to always consider. It's easy to take away. It's easy just to turn off the switch and not even have the lights for most of the event up until the dance floor part. But imagine getting to the event all day long. It's this big fancy wedding with catering. Everybody's all dressed up. It's this fancy venue. The venue person walks over to the light switchboard and turns off the lights because they thought the DJ had lights, and it is just pitch black dark.
Awkward. So you've got your dance floor lighting and then your up lighting. This is where I think sometimes we forget that maybe someone has never planned an event before and they may not know what terms we're using. So up lighting, in my basic terminology brain and not being a nerd, would be
She pointed at me.
Yeah, sorry. Would basically be a light that goes on the floor that you point up to the ceiling or put it on the wall, or you're spotlighting something. And these will typically go around the room.
They're like, you could say, accent lighting. A lot of times there's overhead lighting, like track lighting, for instance, that may be pointed at a certain part of a wall or pointed at a certain part of the floor. This is the other way around. These are lights that are pointed up. And new technology has helped us to where it's not just one color. You can go along with the colors of the wedding. You can sequence through colors. You can mess with the brightness. A lot of times it really changes the visual aesthetic of the room based on how dark it is outside or the overhead lighting in the room. I would say that generally with other lighting on, say an event's going to have dozens of light fixtures and everything, it's an accent and it adds. If you turn all those lights off, it really helps with that club look. You have not only the dance floor lights, but you've got these 16 or 20 lights throughout the room who are giving it that glow.
I'm a big fan of up lights. I do think that they completely change the vibe, and it's fun seeing them change colors. And like yours are battery powered, so we're not running cords all along the perimeter of the room.
It's a great new feature. They're battery powered, so they last for, a number of hours, but that's really how long we need them. They also have wireless sync. So when you're talking about the lights cycling and changing colors, that's done by the lights, talking to each other over the sync. and saying they're all changing at the same time. And it's really a cool function. I would think that it'd be in my best interest to add an uplights package because it's not easy to describe as an add-on. It seems like it's almost like an extra, because unless someone has looked at a bunch of pictures and it says under the picture, this picture has 8 uplights in it, they don't get how it was done. They think, oh, the venue just looks like that, or the DJ's dance lights just made that happen. And it really is just a bunch of fixtures. If I took all of my uplights and all of my dance lights to a party, it would be about like 22 or 23 different light fixtures that I'm running. And it seems like a lot when you say it like that, but these uplights are about the size of, 8 iPhones stacked together. And, you just kind of set them on the ground, hope somebody doesn't kick it like a soccer ball.
And they're usually out of the way. Most of your guests are not going to, they don't even realize they're there, to be honest.
And you can do creative things with uplights. You can do the design where you evenly space them throughout the room and give it that look, or you can use it to accentuate like pillars and poles or trees. Uplighting trees is really fun. If you're in a, kind of an outdoor space, it's more open. You can put uplights around the trees and it gives a lot of, kind of a landscape and a depth to the darkness.
I like that. Yeah. I know a lot of DJs, or I will hear a couple mention laser lights, and I know that's not something you frown on, but you maybe don't recommend.
Laser lights, have come a long way as far as they're able to be manufactured very cheap. So we can all get some laser lights. The important thing to think about is that it says danger and caution on these stickers, on these laser lights, and that's because they can injure somebody. And then another thing to think about is some of these latest cameras that they have out that hasn't been explained to me, but there's some part of the camera that can be damaged by a laser inadvertently like shining right into where the lens gets. I don't know, because these digital cameras, they have these sensors and all these things that help them with the lighting and the getting and capture. And I've had several photographers come up to me before a wedding and say, "You're not using lasers, are you?" And at first you think, okay, this person doesn't like lasers. But when it starts happening 2, 3, 4 times, you got to understand there's a reason why. So it's important if you're using lasers. I don't frown upon lasers like Sarah said, but it's important if you're using them not to point them at people. Point them at the sky, point them at the floor, point them at some point on a wall. If you've ever been to a concert and you saw lasers and you turned around, you looked, every single one of those lasers was pointed at a wall where no one was sitting.
Okay, that's interesting now that you say that. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, because this beam of light at whatever voltage or wattage intensity can damage your sight permanently. So it's important to think about that. Even with like a little toy laser you bought at Spencer's or something you bought at Walmart, or like a Chavez Stinger laser that I can buy on Add DJ, they have these labels. But it's not, it's up to people to actually
use them properly.
To adhere to the label.
Okay.
And that reminds me, like a lot of times when you're using lasers, you have to try to get the best effect out of it anyway. Because if the room doesn't have any haze or fog or anything, all you get is a light on the wall. If the room has haze or fog, then you see the laser beam and, oh, that's cool. I guess that's for that combination of reasons, because in a lot of event spaces, we're not allowed to use haze or fog. And then the danger associated along with it, it's kind of like, I guess I don't want the headache, but I do have them featured on like additional uplights, or if people want to do that. I have a laser guy. Like this guy,
okay.
I remember one time we did a concert, we brought in this laser guy, and man, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a little tidbit right here, just to prove that I do like lasers, and I really, really do. If you've ever done this before, you know how cool it is. Point a laser at a disco ball or a mirror ball and watch what happens. It is so cool.
What happens?
Well, it's just like whatever happens with like the mirror ball with like the spotlight, you get the lights moving around the room, except most of the time lasers are in motion. So you get all of that light around the room, but it's like motion light. It's a really cool effect.
That's interesting, and this is way past my skill set. So
it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing to look at, being creative.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't want to do it at everybody's wedding.
Right.
Sometimes it's one of those things like, yeah, that's cool. No reason why.
And of course, we've definitely seen monograms popular for a few years, being on the dance floor, like spotlighted on the dance floor, spotlighted on the fountain at the Carrick House, or on the wall somewhere. That can be all of the couple's initials, the 3 letters, or that can be the first initial of the last name. So that's considered a monogram. Mm-hmm. Why is it called a BOGO sometimes?
A gobo.
A gobo. Okay,
Yeah.
I was close. Okay.
I think gobo is like one of those terms like Kleenex or Band-Aid. There may have been a brand name piece of hardware, and that's what they called it. They called it a gobo. I think it has a lot to do, well, with, there's the device, which is a really hot little spotlight, a really bright, really hot little spotlight, and you put this disc in there that's been custom cut, like laser cut, to have their initials or their name. And I think that they call the disc the gobo. I'm pretty sure, yeah, they call the disc the gobo, and like I can go online and get one customized, and that's how you do it. A lot of time, it is customized, it is custom made to have the gobo light. And now that it's been a few years since that's come out, a lot of things with monograms have gone digital. Like we do it on our projector. There is a digital gobo, which is a kind of like a higher end projector light that it's really small in the device, and then it projects onto the wall, but you can change it in real time.
Oh, wow.
A lot of the newer stuff is digital, like a digital projector, like an Epson or a Canon. We're able to do stuff with projectors now we weren't able to 10 or 15 years ago, where we can make it so it doesn't look like there's white space or black space. It looks like it's just the letters that are being projected by the projector. And that gives it that monogram look. You know, like if you do a PowerPoint projection, you can see the rectangle, the letterbox, just like it's a TV or a projector screen or something like that. And it's like, okay, that's coming from a projector. When you're able to get rid of that space and turn it into like negative space, like as in like a PNG file or something, if you know what that is, then it's just the item, what we're talking about, the monogram. So you can do that with some of the really good digital projectors.
I have kind of seen coming down the pipeline are the tube lights that people are using. I don't know that I've seen many around here yet, but definitely in the bigger cities. If a couple isn't familiar with what those are, will you kind of explain those in an easy term?
Well, the most popular brand is called the Astera tube lights, and it's not like those foam tube lights that people run around at parties. Those are fun. This is bigger, and they're all in sync, and they all have very bright LED lights in them, and they can be synced up to the where they go with the beat, go with the music. And the great thing about them is that they have that portability, and you can take them out and put them out on the dance floor or around the venue. It's not really an alternative to uplighting, but it's like a different type of lighting. It gives your party that kind of like next level Hollywood feel. I've always had the fear. I've always thought that as soon as I saw these things, I was like, what stops two overserved guests from fighting with these things like it's Star Wars? And then it turns out on like DJ blogs, this is something that's being discussed. It's like, if you're going to elect for the tube lights, make sure that your guests take care of your DJ's property, because they're putting these kind of things out there in your party to enhance it. It's like, what, you know, like those stanchions for like the velvet rope. Mm-hmm. What if your stanchions were part of the light show? That's kind of the idea of it. Or if, you know, these things there might be 8 or 10 of them out, like on the dance floor, spaced out, so people can like dance around them. Gives it that real next level party feel, not just the DJ looking at the crowd, lights shined at the crowd. These are lights in the crowd.
And I think after lighting, the next most popular add-on for DJs is going to be photo booth.
Oh, yeah.
Photo booths have come a long way since they came out. I don't even know when they came out. I feel like probably 20-ish years ago. We have several different kinds now. We have your standard.
What do you call, like the standard booth would be like the iPad or tablet booth?
Yes, yeah. We don't have like the enclosed booths anymore that you saw in the mall where you close the curtain.
No, those are the enclosed booth. That's become very niche.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen a couple of those, like, you know, people who have like a photo booth trailer, which is really cool, but it's gotten to be where it's a lot more portable. It's a lot easier to manage.
Absolutely, yeah.
We're really proud of how far our photo booth has come over the last 4 or 5 years, because of the enhancement that it provides for the guests at your party. Also, you get all those photos for your photo book and everything, but guests love it. They're instantly attracted to it. It's a great what to do at the party, because a lot of times that's what your guests are waiting for. They're waiting for what's next, what to do, what features does this party have, you know. Other than that, you know, they're just kind of waiting to dance. So that's why we like to put the photo booth right by the dance floor.
And so you can do the photo booth by the dance floor. You can do a photo booth with maybe an 8x8 or 10x10 backdrop wall type thing. Some DJs, well, most DJs will have kind of some basic backgrounds. A lot of couples will choose to rent a bougie background or make a bougie background. And a lot of times they will want to add some type of a sign to the top of it. Mm-hmm. I personally try to recommend staying away from the light up neon signs because those almost blur in every photo. So going with like a wood sign from the Crazy Bunny lady that says cheers or something along those lines instead of your last name, because your guests are all going to be in that picture and they don't necessarily want your last name in their picture per se. Definitely have that neon sign behind like your sweetheart table or the Mr. and Mrs. there. But I like a good neutral sign on the photo booth backdrop. So you've got the traditional photo booth with an iPad, and your guests can text the picture to themselves immediately. Mm-hmm. And then the couple also gets a copy of those photos at the end. And then we have a mirror photo booth, which I don't know if anybody around here still has one, but it's probably a 6-ish foot tall mirror.
Yeah. My favorite one was like the Snow White mirror on the wall. It had like all these animations and everything going on. And that's what I thought really set it apart from the standard or the tablet booth. The mirror booth, it seems like it is more luxurious just looking at it. It is more fun. It has more interaction going on. And the best ones that I've seen are interactive with the animations, but they kind of end up with the same product, a photo that you send to your phone. And then you can add on printing as well. I love that printing is now an add-on because it helps things become more affordable. It's like the ability to text your photo from the mirror booth or from the standard booth or from a roamer booth or from, the 360 booth means that it's done. It's complete. You have the product. It's done. If you want to do printing, then we start dealing with hardware. Anyone who's ever set up a printer has to realize, yeah, it has all those same problems.
But I am a big fan of the printed photo, even though I know it's a little bit more work. When you look at my refrigerator, I mean, there are printed photo booths photos up there from probably 8 to 10 years ago. There's some from work events. There's friend events. I was in Vegas last fall. There's one from there. Like, it's just fun to look at those.
I love the prints. I think the prints really complete the whole idea of the photo booth. The fact that we're able to print out those standard 2-inch by 6-inch strips that would come out of like a mall photo booth or something is really exciting. And I love it when the hosts do elect to get the printer because I know that their guests are about to be receiving a gift every time. Like it's great to have those takeaways.
The newest photo booth is the 360 photo booth, and that is kind of where you stand on a circle, and is it an iPad? The camera kind of goes in a circle.
Yeah, it goes in a circle. It's a real like a movie type camera effect is what it is. It's a big setup, and that has to be executed. The people have to be standing there. They have to be aware of the camera going around. The camera might just go like 1 or 2 revolutions while it takes the picture. And what's really cool is like the software, once it gets everything it captures, it does some editing to make the people look really good, like maybe some zooms or some back and forth type stuff. And one important thing to think about with the 360 booth is that with a standard photo booth, you only have to worry about one backdrop. In a 360 booth, you have to think about 360 degrees around. So it's looking like the ones that have some sort of enclosure or in a smaller type room are the ones that end up with a better looking photo. Also, there's no prints with a 3D booth. There's no prints with a 360 booth because it's a video. It's kind of a short video meant for posting on social media. I've seen them with iPads, and I've seen them with big time cameras. And it's a lot of has to do with the software that they're using. So I've noticed that a 360 booth requires an attendant, at least one person.
100%, yes.
Whereas like my standard booth, I could leave that thing out for 8 days. I've done it before.
And I will say the one thing about the 360 booth that has kind of been a struggle for me is I'm short and all of my friends are tall. And so it's a little harder for us to kind of all get in the frame as it's going around. And then 2, you do have to make sure you have plenty of room for that to go in circles. So It does take a little bit more room, and then you definitely need the 360 background so that it does look clean and fun and neat.
I think it's 360 background, or like the room we're in right now recording. What is this, like a 6 by 12 or something?
Yeah.
If we had just enough room for a 360 booth in here, that would look awesome because it's not going to show what's beyond these walls, and that's kind of what the idea of a 360 backdrop would be. I did see 360 booth that's not based on the floor; it was based up high.
Oh,
and so it looked like a tent frame.
Okay.
A tent frame, and then like from the center up at top, that's when they had the thing going around like your head.
I haven't seen that. Okay.
You look up at it.
That's fun. Another thing that has become really popular is dancing on the cloud. And a lot of times I would hear couples say they want a smoke machine. And I have to go back and ask the question of, are you thinking you want dancing on a cloud? Talk to me about how dancing on a cloud and a smoke machine are two different things.
Yeah, I think it's really important to find out what they mean, like when they say smoke machine, because there's a really funny joke to that. Anything's a smoke machine if you operate it wrong enough.
Like me cooking, yeah.
So if you want to, when they say smoke machine, you want to know if they're talking about like a fog or a haze in the room, like at a concert, so that'll show the light beams and everything. Or if they're talking about that low-lying cloud, the dancing on a cloud. The low-lying cloud, mystery solved, is dry ice. It's a dry ice machine, usually like one called a nimbus, which does the reaction of the dry ice forming fog so fast that it's able to blow it across the floor. And you get, a few minutes before it dissipates. Carbon dioxide is part of our atmosphere, so it just kind of dissipates. It's good for the photos. It's a good look if you do it right. And that's why it's like important to have the right machine to do it right, because anybody could just throw some dry ice in a bucket. We've all done it, and that it produces that cloud effect. This thing does it in a very concentrated way and blows the cloud across the floor. It's really fun effect. It's definitely an extra because of the cost associated with it, and then the expertise it takes to run the machine.
We have also seen cold sparks taking over, which the cold sparks is essentially your indoor sparklers. Mm-hmm. If you are not familiar with those, they are little buckets that sit on the floor. We're going to call them that because that's what a normal person would say. And they have fire that come out of them, and they're allowed to be inside.
Cold sparks is a technology that was developed for like higher end pyro at concerts, and you might have seen it over the years. The best example I can give is like the entrance of a wrestler on a big pay-per-view special. They were just like sparks flying up in the air, sparks coming down, and then they don't start a fire, they just go out. They're called cold sparks. And one of the most popular indoor sparkler machines is called the Sparkular, and you load it up with these little pellets, and the pellets are what catch on fire. You say fire and cold sparks, and you kind of wonder, like, why doesn't it catch anything on fire in the room? It's because the concept behind this is that it's burning at a much lower temperature than, say, like my clothes would burn or wood would burn or something like that, and it goes out very quickly. So the cold spark thing, they're little modules. They plug into the wall like everything else. You load up the pellets inside, and then you get little spurts of sparks. You can let them go for like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds before they overheat or need to be refilled or something like that. I generally think to get the real effect, you got to have at least 2.
I'm more of a fan of 4, to be honest.
Yeah, you got to have numbers on this, and then you got to kind of have them set up in a way that makes for a good photo.
Yep.
And I think that's it's almost more important that you think about the photo than you think about the live aspect.
Oh, 100%.
Because the photographer needs to know the timing, and they need to know like where to point the camera. I'm sure they have to set their light to it because it's so bright that it could take away from the subject. And it's from what I understand, if you're going to operate cold sparks, whether you're a venue, a host, or a DJ, you need to talk to your insurance agent about that. You need to talk to the fire marshal about that, and you need to make sure you're being safe.
A couple of different places that I see the couple using cold sparks in their wedding day is the grand entrance into the reception. And that's a place where you could probably maybe use 2 if you wanted to, 1 on each side of the couple coming in. And then if you're using them for the first dance, personally, I like one on each end of the dance floor, so 4. A lot of times they are using them for the grand exit now. If you're using them for an exit, I would go 4, 6, 8, 10. I would just go ahead and rack it on up. I will say that talking about refilling them, I am not 100% sure on this, but I think almost every single time that you would use them for like a grand entrance to the first dance to the exit, you have to refill those. So they're not cheap to use.
Yes. When you go in to look into something like Cold Sparks and you wonder why is this so expensive, it's because it's a machine that is expensive to maintain and run. And also, there's a level of expertise involved. You probably are not going to see someone solo op running Cold Sparks, dancing on the cloud, and music all at the same time.
100%.
You want somebody, like a dedicated professional, to be in charge of this to make sure it goes right. Timing is very important, but also safety. In the end, we want it to look really cool. And that's one reason I'm in favor of something like Cold Sparks, because even if I don't provide it, it looks cool.
Yeah. And this is something, too, that you need to talk with your venue about to make sure that, A, your venue allows it. There are some venues in town that do not allow it. And secondly, there are some venues that will turn off their sprinkler system when this is going to happen.
Yeah.
They gave me a reason why. I don't remember that reason now, but it's not because they're bad. It can trigger it, I guess.
Yeah. It's the idea of, that even though it's burning at a low temperature and it's intended to go out and not spark a fire, it is a fire.
Yeah. But you can stick your hand in there and it's literally cold. It's the most fascinating thing. Yeah. It's so confusing.
It's chemistry. That's all. It's a chemical reaction more so than, lighting a firecracker. It's not like flame incinerate. It's just something that it's brought up to a certain temperature and then it ignites, which is way different than like lighting a firecracker or lighting a cigarette or something.
Well, and this is probably why I don't understand it. A lot of it then is because I did not do so well in chemistry in college. Thankfully, I did not have to have a really good grade in that to be a wedding planner. So thankful for that.
She's looking for a different kind of chemistry. She's helping with love.
Yes. So Cold Sparks are always something fun. There are a few DJs that do offer them. There's one decorator that offers them. Some DJs will also offer those separately. If you wanted those for like a grand exit, if it's at like 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, if they have an extra team member that could come out and do those. So if your wedding day DJ does not offer those, feel free to reach out to a DJ to see if they would be able to do a grand exit for you somewhere.
Yeah.
I know the Castle is a super fun place to add them at the very end as you're leaving there.
Yeah, and I would say if the guy you're working with is the DJ service you want, but he doesn't have the add-on that you want, call somebody else or ask them if they know somebody else. If they don't have the service that you want added on to just their music or any service they provide, feel free to ask them if they know somebody else, or, ask Sarah if she knows somebody else that can provide Sparks. Any of these add-ons, it's important to realize it can't all come from the same place every time.
And this is one of those, I probably talk about this in every episode, is how small our local industry truly is. Everybody knows everybody. Your vendors can literally send one text and have that taken care of within a couple hours for you. If they don't offer it or they're not available, they can absolutely find someone who can for you. And that's where the DJs, almost all of them know each other. They're friendly to each other. They say hi at networking. They say hi at the bridal shows. They're more than happy to work together on an event if they need to, because it's what you want and they can work together to make that happen.
I would say that's 100% correct. As vendor professionals locally, we like to see growth with the other companies. We like to see everybody getting along and helping one another. I've learned that networking is probably the strongest marketing tool that I have. And I think knowing that is something that's brought us all together.
Absolutely. And one thing that we don't see often on the wedding days or at reception is karaoke. However, I would say maybe once a year, I do get a request from a couple that they want karaoke. They're just having a fun backyard party, or their guests just love to karaoke. I know that you offer that, but I know most DJs don't offer that.
Good. Well, let me see what I can tell you about karaoke. One thing I know about being a wedding DJ that offers karaoke is that I'm not a karaoke DJ that offers weddings. because I think if we said it the other way around, it would sound like you've got yourself a wedding singer situation going on. Somebody who's going to sing throughout your reception and who's going to offer karaoke, but really as some sort of like miniature concert type situation. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about karaoke as an add-on or karaoke as a feature of your dance floor, another something to do, something fun for your guests. Oftentimes it's planned. It's planned, so I bring extra equipment along, so it's like having a karaoke bar at your wedding. We bring the TVs and the microphones and the song selection. Most of the time, you know, it's not a big deal. It's just one of those fun things that some people choose to do. Most people choose not to do. Most couples cringe at even the thought of one of their guests grabbing a microphone and singing and going on and having fun, you know, being loud. And
this is a great like bachelorette type party, bachelor party. Go do that.
Yeah. Karaoke has its place. And if you decide it has its place in your wedding, then it's something we can set up. I can also do it impromptu because I am a karaoke guy. I do have that feature. I think it's just since I am a karaoke aficionado that I kind of carry that on over into my expertise, and I offer it as a fun something to do during your wedding reception, but it's not a make or break thing with me. And I would say, you know, 95 out of 100 weddings don't have karaoke. The ones that do, we had a lot of fun, but it was planned. It was the newlyweds' plan to have karaoke, or it's the end of the night. We've got 30 minutes to go. Somebody walks up to the bride and says, "Hey, do you mind if I sing?" And she says yes. And now we've got a karaoke situation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, I've learned by reading blogs and listening to podcasts from other DJs, there are regions where, as the night progresses, it's very common for guests to grab the microphone and sing along. And DJs talk about how, that guy has a microphone, but what he doesn't know is that it's not even plugged in. It's kind of like people like to get involved and have that energetic experience. That's just people having a ball, having fun. Now, as far as like formal karaoke, we can do that. And it's not even that hard to do. It's a lot of fun. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody because I don't want people getting cringy and thinking, I don't want to do that.
What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I usually get warmed up when I'm feeling not so energetic. I warm up to like Amarillo by Morning.
Okay.
Because it's like, it's slow, but it does have a key change. So, you know, it's got a little bit of, you know, there's a little bit of skill involved. But a lot of times I go really random. My song list is over 200, and I'll love to sing.
What's your least favorite karaoke song to hear?
I'm going to have to say Picture by Sheryl Crow and Kid Rock.
I knew that was coming. Yeah.
All joking aside, I'll tell you, well, no, this isn't a joke. This is a real story. A lot of times people will ask me as a karaoke host, like, will you duet with me? And yeah, okay, I will. And I'll go up there and I'll sing that song, and they'll be like, you didn't do it right. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you messed that up on purpose. I said, I know. I don't like it.
Just take that one off your list. You
can't do that. You can't offer people bread without butter.
I mean, I'll eat bread without butter. Let's be honest, it's bread. So moving on from karaoke, projectors. We talked a little bit about those earlier and how they've come a long way. Mm-hmm. I know that every wedding 15 years ago would always have a random slideshow. I think that those have definitely evolved over the years, and we do occasionally see slideshows. Those can be memorials. Those can be the couple. That can be the engagement photos. I saw one not long ago during the father-daughter dance that was the photos of the bride and the father growing up, and that played during the dance, and I absolutely loved that. So most DJs will have projectors that a couple can also add on to their wedding day if they need that.
Yeah. We do have projectors. It's as easy as having that, simple projector and portable display, portable projection screen with the slideshows. And sometimes it can get more complex going into something that looks more like a conference or a PowerPoint presentation. A lot of that, anything that you work on like a projector and you want it to be part of your timeline, part of your day, it's important to consider the intention. Anything you want to make part of your day, like a projector, it's important to think about the intention. I think you made a really good example talking about the slideshow during the father-daughter dance, because the intention there is that people see it. That means it has to be placed in the right setting. And also you have to think about the timing, the content, and you look to your client to tell you how you want this to look. You look to the client to explain to you what this means and how long they want to do it. Very importantly, provide the content. It's almost like thinking of it as, the hardware of the projector and the projection screen and everything, that's almost the easy part. We got to get into the production of what is this supposed to look like so that we can provide the best product for our clients. And that's what comes into it. That's why as soon as you said that about the father-daughter thing, I'm like, that's a perfect way to use it, because it's not just some projector off in a corner with pictures over and over again. That's where I'm not knocking it. It's really cool to see the photos, but it's easy. Yeah. It's been done. It's not rocket science, and we could pull that off really easy. But doing something during a dance, that requires some timing, a little pizzazz, I guess is what I'm saying. You really got to take an idea like that and just bring it home.
Another way that I have seen a projector used with intention, one of my very first weddings that I coordinated a long time ago, the couple actually went to Chicago and essentially eloped. They did not have any guests that went with them. And they did a photo shoot in Chicago the day that they said their vows. And so they played that photo shoot for their guests at the beginning of the reception, since no one was there with them that day. So that's another great way. Your guests would actually really like to see those photos. They're there, they care. Another time with intention. And I will say that this is an area, the projector is not something I recommend DIYing. I actually borrowed one from Jason from Kentucky Pro for one of our vendor networking events. And I was like, oh, this will be easy. He told me what to do. Yeah, I couldn't get it to work. All the parts were there. I wasn't smart enough to make it work. So it's one of those, let somebody else take care of it on the wedding day that knows what they're doing, that does this on the daily basis.
At the end of the day, it's gear. And you want a gearhead to run something that's a little bit more advanced than what you're used to. I really think that you have the right mindset about that. When you realize that in a one-off situation, that's when you need the professional. You don't want to have a learning curve when you've got a time crunch. I see that even when I'm setting up my own stuff, when I'm bringing all these extras and add-ons and stuff, I'll add on time to my day knowing I don't really know what errors I'm about to encounter, but I'm pretty sure that they are going to be encountered. And it's good to have a pro have your back on stuff like that. Projectors, it's interesting you said that. That's something that, looking back, I've helped many people at events, complete strangers. They know I'm just there to play music, but they see me playing with all these electronics. They're like, I'm going to ask this guy if he knows what to do. And it's kind of a very triumphant moment for a tech person to come over and be able to help you with your thing. And then, it works.
And two, there shockingly are not that many venues here that actually have projectors that are part of the venue. I know that Copperoo has one, Harper Hall has one, the Signature Club has one, and Malone's Banquets has one.
Limestone Hall has one. But yeah,
good to know. I did not know that one.
Yeah. They have a whole kind of conference. I guess when you're coming in from the elevator, that right side room is a whole conference room.
Okay, good to know.
I guess that's the 21C side. They have a huge projection screen.
Okay. But the majority of venues here do not have any type of AV or projector, so you do have to provide that yourself if you're wanting to use that.
And we can get mobile with it. It's no problem. The projectors are small, especially the scale we're using. It's not like it's a movie theater. It's a PowerPoint presentation, essentially. And then the projection screens, they're portable. They've got them. As long as you've got a big enough car or trailer, you can just throw it in there. I actually, because of the popularity of outdoor movies, they now have these larger format 120-inch screen inflatable projection screen. Now, they do take up a lot of space, but when it comes to this kind of thing, with projectors, you can think about the sky's the limit. How big do we want to go with this? Do we want to have something small scale that's kind of like a classroom level presentation, or do we want to have something that's a grand movie style presentation?
Perfect. Let's move into silent disco.
Silent disco is cool, and silent disco, it's kind of on, it's in a valley right now, but I think it's going to peak. I think in a city like Lexington, we're about to see silent disco really take off. And I say that because I'm seeing in other markets. I'm seeing it become a popular networking function. And what you can think about silent disco is like, it's like you have options. If I'm playing music at like 10 o'clock, dance floor level volume, you can barely hold a conversation, especially if you're in front of the speakers. And you don't have a choice. Unless you want to go to another room, go outside. If you have silent disco going on, all that music is only in people's headphones that are choosing to listen to it. And they're all wireless, and they're all tuned in. The DJ's still up there playing. They could even have the music playing at a really low volume. But if you take those headphones off, you can have a conversation right there on the dance floor. It's a feature of the party. Also, think of considering venues, the places that have like a low noise, which is more numerous than you think.
Especially downtown.
Yeah. You can turn a low noise space into a party where you still have a DJ. And you can have multiple DJs. Some of these silent disco headphones have like multiple channels. You can listen to the house channel, the rap channel, the pop channel. It's kind of funny. And since it's so occasional, such a one-off type situation, it's as easy as just going online and renting a set. You can rent a set. They'll ask you how many people are going to have your party. They'll send you the boxes and the return labels, and they'll say, have fun. And it's up to, all you have to do is just plug in. And you could plug in the best DJ in the world, or you could just plug in your iPhone. It works like that.
If you are listening and you're like, what are they talking about? Let's back up a little bit. Okay. So silent disco, for someone that doesn't know what it is, means that your guest will get a pair of headphones and the DJ is going to be playing music. There are typically at least 2 stations from what I understand. When I did it, there were 3 stations, and you have little knobs on the side of the headphones where you can click to change stations, and your headphones will light up a color that is equivalent to, in my situation, the DJ color, and you hear their music. And so each DJ had their own playlist. I did see a wedding or a reception not long ago where it was the DJ's playlist or the couple's playlist. So you could switch back and forth between those two. So essentially, you are listening to music in your headphones, and if you take your headphones off, you do not hear music.
Right. And it's an interesting dynamic because you're at a party, there is a DJ, music is playing, but if you take off the headphones, that's why they call it the silent disco, because you don't hear the loud music, which is really something that kind of goes hand in hand with a big party, is loudness, loud music. So you can, I guess what they're saying is like your neighbors, if you lived in a duplex and your neighbors had 12 people over all having a silent disco party, you wouldn't know it because all the music is on their headphones. All you hear is a bunch of people talking.
And I know that some receptions in some venues, they require the music to go off at 11, but they will allow silent disco for an extra hour to 2 hours because the music's not thumping out of the country club or whatever.
I like that. And that's a really guest-focused feature provided by the venue right there, because they're allowing you to stay and have fun when they could have just said, okay, 11 o'clock, music off, everybody out. They're saying, look, you have this option, this amenity. And I would think that if they're going to go that far, they could go the extra mile and provide the headphones too. Like they could be providing the add-on at that point, because there's one way of saying like, hey, we know you have a DJ. Tell him we do silent disco if it's okay. And then that DJ has to decide, okay, am I going to add this feature, charge more, do all this? Or they could say, hey, we know you have a DJ. We have a silent disco feature. Isn't that cool? Would you like to do it? And either way, it's all about possibilities. And I think that's the important thing to think about add-ons. And why we call them add-ons, such as silent disco, is it's about possibilities. It's not about like, oh, you have to have a silent disco at your wedding. It's something that people are going to talk about for sure. I'll tell you what, somebody my mom's age would go on and on and on about silent disco, and she doesn't even listen to music.
I mean, I did this in 2020, early 2020, and I'm still talking about it because it was that much fun.
Yeah.
I actually knew it was 2019 when I did it, so I still remember that much about it.
Pre-pandemic in silent disco, yeah.
Some of the things we just talked about are enhancements for your wedding day. They are not required by any means. If the budget allows them, they're always super fun. But there are a couple other things that I kind of want us to circle back to that are more necessities than enhancements. We're going to talk about just the sound and the microphones for performers and vocalists. That can be for the ceremony or the reception. That is something that your DJ can take care of for you. That is something that you will want to discuss with them before the wedding day so that they can be prepared for that.
We are sound guys. We show up with a sound system. It's up to you, the client. It's up to you, the host, to tell us what you want to come through that sound system. 6 hours is a lot of time to fill. And you may have different parts of your wedding that require different sound setups. I can do it. I just need to know what you want me to do. One important thing to think about is at the wedding ceremony, it's very common, very typical to have the one lapel mic for the officiant. But we do have options for more mics. You could have mics on all 3 people. You could have a handheld mic for someone who wants to speak or sing. Also, sometimes if you have like a string quartet, we can put a microphone in front of them to get the sound and project the sound a little bit more.
And two, if your groom is mic'd from the videographer, that is not going to be sound for your guests. That is sound for the videographer. So a lot of times your groom will actually wear 2 microphones.
It has happened, yeah. And we have this, I guess I want to call it a newer technique, but really it's not new. It's just being adapted by a lot of people, where we take the lapel mic off of the person, the officiant, and we put it on the binder or iPad or something like that. So now this mic has gone from being a one-person solo mic to being like a Bob Barker TV show host mic, where it picks up kind of everybody within a few feet. Lapel mics are very sensitive, so you kind of have to worry about like jostling and wind and all that stuff, but it's possible.
And another thing, talking about ceremony sound, is DJs can also have, I'm not going to get my terms right here, sound systems that are battery pack operated, because there are some ceremony locations here in Lexington that will not let you use their power anymore. And so there may be some couples that already have a ceremony spot booked that didn't know that in the beginning, because let's just change the rules in the middle of things. And so that is a place where a DJ can come in and offer the sound system with the battery pack, the speakers, and all of those things. So that's kind of something that you can take on, and that may be something that you don't necessarily have in your inventory, but you can rent it, not a problem. But yeah, that's another way, and another, I'm going to call that an enhancement / add-on / necessity at this point.
It went from being a contingency to a necessity to everyday. One of my favorite parts of the system that I bring to the wedding is the ceremony system. It's a battery-powered speaker system with also a battery-powered microphone system. And it was inspired by places that just don't provide power. And instead of shaking my fist in the air, why don't they give me power? We thought, how do we solve this? You know, right now, battery technology is bringing us to play in places where you never thought you would hear a professional sound system anyway. And there's one venue in particular about 90 minutes away from here that inspired me to go 100% battery powered because it's so remote. I brag about it. I like it. I say because of the possibilities. You know, the day that I found out that it was going to be a headache, I had a headache that day. But then I took care of it, and also took care of all my future clients who would ever need something like this, who would ever need something remote, small, for a short period of time. That's what it's all about. Happy clients, people getting what they dreamt about, what they paid for, really.
And two, I've seen a lot of times where the battery pack system can be used for like a cocktail hour. If it's outside on a patio or something, so there are not like cords running everywhere, which I appreciate for aesthetic purposes.
Right. Just for that very reason, the way you're stating it is the way the clients are seeing it as well. And I think I call that bride eyes. I'm always asking the perspective on that, like, how do you see this with your bride eyes? Because you don't want necessarily to have this giant system out in the middle of everything. One, for the look, and two, it probably costs a lot of money. You know, anything that's big. And
it did cost a lot of money, let's be honest.
Yeah. Anything that's big and is any sort of production, it's going to take work, it's going to take money. These battery systems are making things more portable, more possible.
And of course, when we think of the word DJ, we think of a DJ that is going to be making like custom song edits for like introductions, dances, parent dances, like mixing and stuff. Does every DJ do that? Is it an add-on? Like, where does that come into play?
I don't know if every DJ does it, but I do know that it's something that's expected. And if you can't do it yourself, you need to find somebody that can, because it's a great enhancement. It's a great way to deliver to your clients. Here's a little anecdote, short. Yesterday, I made an edit for a client and they sent back the P word. We love that. I sent them the edit and they said perfect with an exclamation point.
I thought we were going to say P. Diddy. Sorry. I was like, are we taking that out?
I think he dropped the P. I can't ever tell with that guy. What are we calling you today? So,
yeah.
Well, what it is, you have to get some detailed instructions from your client. Find out what they want. That way you have a goal. And then you go in your editing software or whatever you have to do, and you send them the edit. The first one might not be good. They give you some more pointers, and then you send them the one they like, and they say something like, perfect. And then you did your job well. And that is very rewarding, or it should be. And it's also rewarding to see it play out, because it may just be another edit for you, but it's their father-daughter dance. It's important to them. If I can do something like that and make a happy client, that means that honing my skills and my craft is paying off in more ways than just pushing play. I've done some edits on the fly because it was easy. It was easier to just do it live than it was to go into the studio and do a mashup or an edit or something like that. So I ended up just like queuing up like 8 songs this was for introductions. And I've had so many DJ friends be like, man, how do you do that? It's such a headache. I was like, use your hardware.
2 final things that I want to talk about. Rentals. Obviously, we do have a shop here in Lexington that couples can go to and rent some stuff from if they decide that a DJ is not in their budget. However, you do have some systems that you can also rent to a couple if they just need like a push and play type system for the ceremony or reception. Is that something that you do often, or you walk them through how to use it, or do you just like drop it off? How does that work?
It's not totally often.
Okay.
It's not really often that I do a rental, but it is common. Providing rentals for someone is not necessarily like defeating being hired as a DJ. Sometimes I'm just not available. So, doing a rental system is really the best I could do, if anything. And it's important that when you rent something out that it's plug and play. So it gives people a little bit of instructions. Most of the time, our rentals aren't just rentals. They're setups. I'll go set it up, or somebody that works with me will go set it up for them. Just kind of say, and here's what you plug in to your phone. And I've literally like bought iPhone dongles knowing this is the use for it, because someone is going to be playing this big stereo system off their phone, but that's what they wanted. And so we provide that. Also, sometimes you need a little bit of help as far as like what you have and what you need. So saying like we need an extra speaker, that's easy. I find most of my rentals are not rentals. They're letting other DJs borrow equipment, but that's what it looks like. We do have rentals. It's a plug and play system, usually some pro level speakers, minimal on the mixer technology and everything, so people don't get confused and look at it like it's some mad science project. We usually set it up for you. We do send out some systems with people and give them instructions, but most clients would like us to come at least set it up.
100%. Yes.
And that also means we're going to pick it up too. And that's good for me, knowing that like, I don't know what happened to my equipment at the party, but I know when it got there and when it got picked up.
Let's talk about if somebody wants to have a mic drop at the wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Who typically drops the mic?
If anybody drops the mic, we've seen a lot of the best man.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the best man, the very best we've got, that drop the microphone as some sort of display. And everyone's seen a mic drop, like Dave Chappelle does it at the end of his show. The problem with, the difference between Dave Chappelle dropping a mic and the best man dropping a mic is Dave Chappelle dropped his mic that he owns, that he pays people to operate and will be paying for the replacement if it breaks. The best man or whoever drops the microphone does it with complete and total disregard for the person that owns the mic. That mic could cost $50. It could cost $500. Doesn't matter. All they want to do is drop the mic at the end of their speech for effect. Well, I've decided that people can elect to drop the mic as part of their package, I will let them buy a microphone from me so that whoever's dropping the microphone isn't dropping my mic. They're dropping their mic. And that's a completely different, that's destroying your property, not my property. Otherwise, if someone does drop a very expensive mic, they can't expect a bill for that. And I think that's really what it comes down to is knowing, like, if you had a guest that destroyed a sink in the bathroom, the venue is going to send you a bill for it. And it's one of those things, like, nobody intended for this to happen. Nobody, it's usually the person who didn't do it that is responsible for it. And so I guess I added the mic drop thing as kind of like a little jab at people who want to do that. And also to kind of say, hey, remember, you're damaging someone else's property here. It's brought up some interesting conversations with clients about how they care about my property and the service I provide.
Tom, thank you so much for joining me today and talking about the ways that couples can enhance their wedding day experience for themselves and for their guests. Any final words from you that you would like to add?
I got to say that when it comes to choosing a DJ, word of mouth is probably going to be and always will be the best way to find out about the DJ style and the performance and really what they provide. Anybody can make themselves look good online and anybody can have good connections, but it's people's experience that you are trying to affect when you hire someone. So think about that. Think about people's experience as far as they go. A lot of my best clients were friends with my best clients, and word of mouth goes a long way.
To see more of Tom's work and to follow him on social media, you can find him on Instagram, Facebook, or his website is HiFiDJ.biz, HiFiDJ.biz. Tom, thank you again for joining me today, and you can go follow him on all the socials.
Thanks for having me. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to the Wedding Whisperer podcast.
For more information about Simply Love Studio or to schedule your wedding consultation, go to simplylovestudio.com.